Spiritual awakening is not something that always has to be complicated or only for a select few. Spiritual awakening is for everyone, and it doesn't always have to be attached to religion or philosophy. Many times a spiritual awakening is quite mystical and unexplainable, as such as what happened to me at 8 years old in the woods of Alaska, and then later on when I was 28 years old, living in a small town in Kentucky. Hi, my name is Billy, and welcome to the Path of Mystica podcast, a very real and down-to-earth talk about spiritual awakening, about spirituality, and anything and everything that attaches itself to that and how all of that expresses itself in daily life. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. So today I really want to talk about the basics of spiritual awakening, as if I'm speaking a brand new term that perhaps you've never heard of, or maybe you have heard of what a spiritual awakening is, and maybe you even have experience of a spiritual awakening. Let's just start with the basics here. We were all born and raised, also what I call programmed, not necessarily a bad thing, but we are programmed to think and to feel and to believe in certain ways. Some things are acceptable, while other things are not. And as we are first taught by our parents, eventually we become connected to and programmed even by other people, such as classmates, teachers, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, friends, the world at large. And especially in today's world where everything is about social media, we see more information now than humans have ever seen in one given day. And all of this is feeding into our already existing program. When something conflicts with that program, then we disagree with it, and it brings up a certain emotion within us, some kind of sadness, or anger, or frustration. When we see something that aligns with our program, we feel good. We praise it. We're happy. But all of these programs, which have caused countless conflicts, countless wars, are just that, a program. Something that has been put into our brain and turned into what we call the truth, when in actuality, it is not the truth. Nobody's program is the truth. So having a spiritual awakening is first realizing that at least some of what we thought in our life is not true. And that usually unfolds itself into realizing that the mind from which we have always followed these programs is also not real. It is the energy and the consciousness of who and what we are that is aware of this mind playing itself out. In other words, it is filtering everything that we perceive every day. A spiritual awakening is when we wake up to not what we are looking at, but where we are looking from. And that is when we realize our truest identity of who and what we are. We can call it consciousness. We can call it spirit or soul. But even when we call it something, it is even beyond that concept and that word. So a spiritual awakening happens in many shapes and forms. Sometimes it happens when someone has hit rock bottom, maybe through drugs or alcoholism, maybe through a broken relationship. But it is at that moment of them hitting rock bottom that they realize they've been chasing after something their whole life that not only is not needed, but it's not true. In other situations, people have spiritual awakening through spiritual practice, such as meditation or prayer, or even yoga. And as someone is practicing over and over, repeating, they are often unlearning the program or the pattern that has kept them stuck for so many years. But the ways to spiritual awakening are infinite. And how you wake up and come to understand and know God or the universe or your higher power, whatever you call it, does not have to match anything that you've ever read or even seen. Everyone's spiritual awakening is unique to itself, just like everyone's programming is unique to itself. So it takes a special set of circumstances to undo what has been done. So what happens when you have a spiritual awakening? Well, your entire perspective shifts. The world in which you see shifts. Who you think you are shifts. And it begins to move deeper and deeper into the essence of that which is indescribable. Now, this process can take weeks, months, or even years to fully unfold itself. Sometimes, in the course of our spiritual awakening, we find that we are in the midst of a lot of old darkness that arises within us. Sometimes we shut that door. We don't want to deal with it. We want to go back to our old life, even if our old life was dysfunctional. This podcast, this channel, is a down-to-earth look at what a spiritual awakening is, how to navigate the bumps along the way, and how to get to the truth of what all of this means in the first place. I like to keep everything very real and down to earth. Yet sometimes we're certainly going to talk about topics that seem really out there. Take what you can from this podcast and let it flow through your heart. Whatever feels right, feel free to use it. Whatever doesn't, simply put it on a shelf, because someday you might be able to use it. Or, if you feel the need, you can discard it altogether. Everything that I talk about is what I call universal. It can apply to anyone and everyone, regardless of religion or belief system. Ultimately, my purpose in this podcast, and even in my life as a whole, is to help you find your truest self. Your truest self. Not some false truest self that I'm going to explain to you, and then you're going to just resume what I'm saying. But to find something within you that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt has nothing to do with me, and something that has always been there within you, always been calling you. The love in which I have tapped into on this beautiful journey of mine is nothing short of miraculous. Especially knowing who I was before all this happened. I've been a drug addict. I've been an alcoholic. I've been addicted to adult content, addicted to food. I've shown signs of narcissism. I've been mean at times. I've been hateful. All of these things, which were a part of what I called my personality, my ego, was who I thought I was. When I realized that, in fact, that's not who I was, but that I was something so much more powerful and greater, and I saw that from within, not from something I learned outside of me, I knew that I had tapped into something that I must share with the world. I love you guys. Stay tuned to the next podcast. We have a lot to cover, and I'm excited to be here with you. I appreciate all your comments and questions, because many of those comments and questions I will certainly use for future podcasts. Either way, much love. Namaste.